you all for joining. I'm Yasmin Firahanchi. I'm a vascular neurology trained neurologist, and I'm very excited for this symposium. So Dr. Cheronis will be our first speaker. Dr. Cheronis is the founder of Maui Imaging and a pioneer in ultrasound innovation, presenting his work on computed echo tomography to overcome traditional cranial imaging limitations.
Thank you. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yes, sir. All good to go.
Okay. So, given the worldwide audience, I'll start off with good day as opposed to good morning. So, what I'll be talking about is a novel form of ultrasound, which we refer to as computed echo tomography. And I'll explain why we have changed the name from just ultrasound. I also want to make one correction. I am not the founder of the company. I've joined 10 years in. The founder is our CEO, David Speck, and he's the real brains behind all of this. So, my disclosures is as the Chief Medical Officer, I have significant equity interest in this company, and that the much of what you will be seeing has been supported by the Department of Defense and a contract for the development of a head-to-toe trauma evaluation protocol. So the current state of the art with ultrasound is that it cannot see through barriers such as bone, gas, or foreign bodies, which makes intracranial imaging or intraspinal imaging rather difficult. The solution we have found is the computed echo tomography, which basically turns the barriers into just another part of the image. So the barriers are no longer an obstruction, they just become part of what you're seeing. The clinical applications that we have focused on are in pediatric and adult neurosurgery and neurology, particularly looking at intracranial bleeds, both traumatic and atraumatic, hydrocephalus management, guided procedures, and we hope, we have no data for this yet, but we think we will be able to do non-invasive intracranial pressure monitoring utilizing this technology. In addition, as I mentioned, we have a significant interest from the military for developing a head-to-toe trauma evaluation protocol, and we are very far advanced in development of that. And then finally, interventional radiology, we're being able to help guide interventional procedures that are otherwise complicated by the presence of ribs. So the Maui K3900, which is the current version of this technology, is FDA cleared, and it has three specific components. It has the processing unit, or the CET, computed echo tomography server. It has an Android tablet, which is the user interface, and it has a 2.5 megahertz concave probe. Other probes are in development, but this is the current version that is available for both the military and the civilian form factors for the product. In the military version, you can see that this is a battery here that can run the system offline for up to an hour. So what is computed echo tomography? Computed echo tomography is another form of using ultrasound energy to generate an image, but the way in which we generate the image is completely different. Unlike the traditional or conventional ultrasound, where ballistic pulses are sent out with a predetermined depth so that one can look for reflecting echoes, it is predicated on a uniform speed of sound, that is, the speed of sound in soft tissue. However, when it hits something that is other than soft tissue, bone, gas, metal, wood, whatever it is that might be different from the soft tissue, the speed of the sound wave will change both in its speed of sound and in direction based on Snell's law. As a result, the returning echoes are no longer in phase and cannot be interpreted, and everything is shadowed out. So this is exemplified by the left-hand bottom image, where you can see, using my femur, the proximal surface of the femur and then nothing below that. In computed echo tomography, we send out a completely unfocused ping. Think of it as a sonar ping coming from a submarine underwater, where the entire water or the entire tissue area underneath the ping is insonified. And then what we do is do collect all of the data coming back, and then do the beamforming. We have no presumption of what's going on going into the tissue. We do all of our beamforming on what is returning from the tissue. And as a result, we can actually see the entire volume below. So in this case, this is the same femur. You see the proximal surface, you see the distal surface, you see the medullary bone, and you can see the soft tissue on the other side of the bone. In addition to having the ability to sonify and visualize the entire volume of the tissue below the probe, is that we generate significantly more data, which will become incredibly important when we start applying artificial intelligence for helping for diagnostic imaging. So an example of this is the traditional ultrasound for a 5-second scan. You'll generate approximately 20 megabytes of pixelated data. What we will generate for the same 5 second is about 20 gigabytes of data that can be analyzed at any time in any place, so that the data set that we can collect can be analyzed in the cloud. It can be analyzed in real time. It can be analyzed tomorrow. It can be analyzed the next year. And that way, it doesn't matter about being able to generate individual pixels. The volumetric data then will allow us going forward to actually have true 3D volumetric imaging, so that essentially we can do the same thing that a CT scan can do in terms of looking at different slices and different orientations, but in real time and at the bedside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you a short 2-minute video link that was conducted as a training video for the military for developing the head-to-toe trauma evaluation protocol. This particular segment is restricted to just the cranial and spinal imaging. What I'll be demonstrating now are imaging of the areas of the body that have not been traditional for conventional ultrasound. These include the head, the neck, and the long bones. When imaging the cranial vault, we start with a temporal view through the squamosal portion of the temporal bone. This allows for a transcranial view that sees both the ipsilateral and contralateral subdural spaces, as well as a number of deep structures within the brain, such as the falx and the midbrain. When assessing for spinal injury, one can also look at the spinal column in the lumbar, thoracic, or cervical region in both a longitudinal and transverse direction. Frequently, when assessing for trauma in the cervical spine, one is interested in seeing if there's a displacement of the vertebral bodies. That is best done by looking at a left lateral or right lateral approach using a longitudinal view. Okay, escape. Get away from this. Let me go back to here. Oops. How do I get out of here? Go away. What I'll be demonstrating now. No, I want to get rid of this. Of the areas of the body that have. Okay, I'm back real time. I assume you saw that video. So the next slide are some demonstrations in a little more detail of the kind of imaging that we can obtain. Getting exact comparable images from the CT is difficult because the CT scan plane lines are different from the ones that we use when we're using the temporal bone and the squamosal region of that temporal bone. So what you'll see here in the CET image is a view taken from this plane, whereas the comparative imaging over here are the traditional CT scans from here. And you can see that there's a number of aspects of the brain that can be visualized with this probe. This, I should point out, was done in a subject that was about 35 years old. looking in a sagittal section, you can also start to see in other anatomic structures that are deep within the cranial vault. This was a study that was done in conjunction with Children's National Hospital, where we looked at a patient who was 16 years old, post Chiari grade 1.5 decompression. And you can see here quite nicely how the cerebellum, the foramen magnum, and the spinal canal are visualized using the system. This is a 6-month-old looking at a large posterior fossa arachnoid cyst. And you can see that the cyst is easily visualized. This again was through the cranial skull, did not try to take advantage of any open fontanelle, which at 6 months may not be present. But you can see that there is significant anatomic detail that can be seen. And in the spinal cord, you can also see that there's a significant ability to look into the spinal cord itself so that you can visualize the cord within the spinal canal, along with all of the other bony structures and also the vertebral artery in this case. So as you can see, computed echo tomography is a significant advance over conventional ultrasound. And we hope that as we move forward and actually have the opportunity to visualize true pathology, that we will be able to develop this for applications both at the bedside in the hospital or in the field for traumatic injury in association with military systems. Thank you.